On Saturday night, I'll be listening to Usyk versus Joshua exclusively live on TalkSport while I'm enjoying my Saturday night Chinese. Special fried rice, bosh. Special chow mein, bosh. Sweet and sour chicken balls, bosh. Sweet and sour chicken Hong Kong style, bosh. Salt and chili king prawn, bosh. Salt and chili chicken, bosh. Barbecue spare ribs, bosh. Roast pork Chinese style, bosh. Crispy aromatic duck, bosh. Chips, bosh. Prawn crackers, bosh. Curry sauce, bosh. Right, if I was on the phone to the Chinese, local Chinese, it'd be egg fried rice, special fried rice, large, plain chow mein, shredded chicken chow mein, large, salt and chili king prawn, salt and chili chicken, kung po prawn, sweet and sour chicken balls, sweet and sour pork balls, shredded chili beef, beef in black bean sauce, mini pancake rolls, large pancake roll, curry sauce, 2 portions of prawn crackers. Bosh.
Right. Let's do a quick sound check. Can you hear me loudly and clearly? Big boy. Which one of you's Lyndon's boy? Is that you, Big Boy? Which one of you's Lyndon's boy? I forgot. You know you are. Big Guala. Which one of you's Big Guala? Is that you, Big Boy? Let me know. Yeah. Right. I am planning to stay up for Haney and Lomachenko. Yes. Right. Let's get going with this. Right. Women's boxing, all right? I ain't the biggest fan of women's boxing, as you know, but I thought we'd do a show on this because what you've seen tonight is a watershed moment in women's boxing, okay? What you've seen tonight, in my opinion, is the beginning of a new era in female boxing, all right? What we're starting to see, in my opinion, is we're starting to see a movement now away from this amateur style of boxing towards a more professional and pro style of boxing. And I've always said the final icing on the cake is when we start bringing in 3-minute rounds, because when you start bringing in 3-minute rounds, what you're going to see is it's going to suit a completely different style of fighter, and you're going to have new and different fighters becoming champions, and you're going to see the sport get elevated to a different level. And that's what we saw tonight with Katie Taylor versus Chantelle Cameron. What we saw is the amateur style boxing of Katie Taylor, who I've long said, press one if you agree with this. I've watched Katie Taylor box for years, and I've always said that Katie Taylor is the female version of Amir Khan. Press one if you would agree with that. Press two if you disagree. Plenty of heart. You can never, ever say that Katie Taylor isn't a warrior. You can't say she doesn't show heart in her fights. You can't say she doesn't hang in there when things are going tough. But Katie Taylor's always had a very, very amateur style of boxing. Very, very much a reflex-based style of boxing. And the way they throw combinations is so similar. You know, they both rely on their speed. They both come in chin up and throw clusters of punches. Amir Khan was forever getting into trouble in his fights with throwing clusters of punches instead of just sticking to singles. If you throw singles, you're harder to time than if you're constantly throwing combination after combination. The more combinations you throw, the more open you leave yourself into being timed in than a punching. But if you look at Katie Taylor and Amir Khan, in my opinion, I've said for a long time, very, very big similarity. Quite a few of you are disagreeing, but I've always thought there are big, big similarities between Amir Khan and Katie Taylor. Both very athletic, both reflex-based fighters, both, in my opinion, throw a few too many punches, guilty of overdoing it with the combinations. The way they box, a very amateur style of boxing. They don't really target the body very often. And they look at them, both of them have very, very bad habits. They both lunge into their combinations chin up. And again, in the amateur style boxing for 2-minute rounds, right, where it's almost sort of quantity over quality in amateur boxing, more so than pro boxing. Are you still following me? But it's almost more quantity over quality in amateur boxing. You know, it's about point scoring. You've got a very, very short space of time, 2 minutes, land as many punches as you can, all right? And it's not really almost about, you know, hurting opponents. It's not really almost about the effectiveness of the shots. It's almost about who can land the most point scoring shots in a given amount of time. And unfortunately, female boxing is beginning to evolve. And in my opinion, it's beginning to leave Katie Taylor behind, in my opinion. And we saw that in the performance tonight. You know, like I said before, in my opinion, Katie Taylor is a warrior. And I'm not trying to... and by the way, she was very, very magnanimous in defeat. Very magnanimous in defeat. Didn't make any excuses. You got to give Katie Taylor the credit. But what we're beginning to see, in my opinion, is women's boxing is beginning to now move on from the amateur style of boxing that Katie Taylor used to be able to get away with. Like I said before, Mr. Anderson's got it bang on here. Katie Taylor bouncing in, pinging clusters of shots, falling over her feet constantly. In my opinion, like I said, I'm not saying I'm a better boxer than Katie Taylor, but I'm just saying the little things that she's doing in the ring, she's constantly walking herself onto shots. She's constantly launching herself out from too far out of distance with her hands down. No disrespect, but just let me know what you think. Constantly launching herself from outside of distance to inside of distance. Doesn't use a jab. What do you guys think? Press 7 if you agree with me on this. What do you think about the lack of a jab from Katie Taylor in her fights? She's been fighting for years, you know, with a lack of a jab. Instead of using the jab as a rangefinder and working your way in behind the jab, how many times in the last few years have we seen Katie Taylor bouncing around on the outside, bouncing around, and then she just lunges in she takes massive steps from inside to outside. She launches herself in, chin up, throws a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch combination, and then tries to escape. How many times have we seen that throughout Katie Taylor's? Constant. That's a very amateur style of boxing. No disrespect, but that whole style of boxing that Katie Taylor's doing, you're on the outside, and then you just lunge yourself in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out. Women's boxing is beginning to evolve, in my opinion. It's beginning to evolve, right? As more money's been going into the sport, as more serious trainers are becoming to go into the sport. I don't think her style, right, is, well, she's old anyway, but I don't think her style is enough for women's. And I think what you'll see is in 3, 4, 5, 6 years' time, the same thing happened. Can I just say one thing and then I'll go through these comments? Do you guys remember a very, very similar thing happened in MMA with Ronda Rousey, where they were saying that Ronda Rousey was the greatest fighter of all time? Do you remember? Ronda Rousey was the greatest fighter of all time. And then what happened to Ronda Rousey? The sport began to evolve. The talent pool began to get deeper. More people began to get involved. More money came into the sport. And what started happening? Different styles of fighters started coming along. And unfortunately now, when you look at how the MMA, the sport of women's mixed MMA has evolved, 2, 3, 4 years now, if you look back then and look at all these people who said Ronda Rousey was the greatest of all time, you get laughed out of the building. Do you know what I mean? It's evolved. And I don't think Katie Taylor's style has evolved with the sport. That's what I'm trying to say tonight. She's a warrior, a fantastic effort, but I'm going to be honest with you. I thought she was beaten up in that ring tonight. I heard a few people saying it was a close fight, but I have to be honest with you. I felt that Chantelle Cameron bossed that fight. I think pro boxing is about hurting people. Pro boxing's landing the most effective shots. And for me, Chantelle Cameron boxed. What you saw tonight was proper pro boxing. Exactly, Mr. Anderson. Let me just say what we saw from Chantelle Cameron, and then we'll go through all your comments. If you want to call in, Tony, I know you're there, Tony. If you want to call in, you can call in, Tony. Let me know if you want the link. I'll put it out for you, Tony. Shevin, if you want to call in, you can call in. Let me just quickly say the difference in the styles, right? Chantelle Cameron's not interested in flashy combinations. Chantelle Cameron went out there tonight to hurt somebody. Chantelle Cameron not interested in going out and shoe shining. Katie Taylor, in my opinion, does a lot of shoe shining, particularly have you seen the end of rounds? Katie Taylor at the end of rounds, she jumps in at the end of the rounds, chin up, and she shoe shines. A quick flurry of a combination, exits, and tries to nick rounds on points or tries to nick rounds on work weight. She's constantly trying to shoe shine. Chantelle Cameron not interested in shoe shine. What did we see from Chantelle Cameron tonight? Work rate, engine, cutting off the ring from Chantelle Cameron. The solid jab. Look at that jab from Chantelle Cameron tonight. Katie Taylor made Chantelle Cameron look like a Northampton version of Tyson Fury tonight. Do you not think? Chantelle Cameron on the front foot, solid jab, knocking Katie Taylor back in straight lines with the solid jab, knocking her towards the ropes, cutting off the ring, following her up. When Katie Taylor was trying to throw those flurries of combinations that she throws, because remember, Katie Taylor's always throwing 2s, 3s, and 4s. You never see Katie Taylor really throw the 1 so much, which it'd be a lot better for her if she threw single combat. Because if she threw the odd single, instead of constantly lunging in and throwing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, she'd get timed a lot less. But what did Chantelle Cameron do tonight? Katie Taylor tried to lunge in and go for her flurries. Chantelle Cameron not headhunting. She went for the left hook to the body because Katie Taylor left the body completely exposed tonight. Again, something that happens a lot in amateur boxing, where in amateur boxing, there's almost a sort of an unwritten rule that body punches don't count so much. Tony, you're an amateur boxer. I've never boxed amateur, but I've been in plenty of gyms. Let me know about that, Tony. But there's almost a kind of an attitude in amateur boxing of ignore the body, because at the end of the day, we're here to score we're here to score points, and what's going to attract the judges' attention is headshots. But Chantelle Cameron's not in an amateur boxing ring. Chantelle Cameron's in a professional boxing ring. So when Katie Taylor goes in for them flurries, Chantelle Cameron's not interested, in trying to return fire and headhunting. When Katie Taylor went 1, 2, 3, 4 and exposed the center line, Chantelle Cameron rocked back, left hook to the body, uppercut to the body, left hook to the body. Katie Taylor's balance tonight, in my opinion, I don't know what you guys think about Katie Taylor. I thought the balance tonight was off. Constantly falling over her feet. What shot does that bring into play? The uppercut. You see Katie Taylor on the inside, leaning over on the inside, head over the front foot. She was almost like falling over herself up on the inside. Constantly Katie Taylor leaning over, falling over, head falling over her front foot, falling into Cameron's center line. Cameron was lifting her head up with uppercut after uppercut, and she was hurt multiple times in there. And look, a lot of this is that, Katie Taylor's an old warrior. Do you know what I mean? She's an absolute warrior. She's been a great servant to the sport of female boxing. I'm not trying to put Katie Taylor down whatsoever. What I'm trying to tell you is this, right? What you've seen tonight and what you're going to see when they introduce 3-minute rounds is the beginning of the end of Katie Taylor type fightings. Okay, I've always said that, and I stand by that. The final step now is to introduce 3-minute rounds. If they introduce 3-minute rounds into women's boxing, you will have a completely new set of champions. Do you know that? If you had 3-minute rounds in boxing, Delphine Pissoon would be the undisputed champion at Katie Taylor's weight. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Press 1 if you agree with me, press 2 if you disagree with me. That if we had 3-minute rounds in women's boxing, Delphine Pissoon would currently be the undisputed champion at Katie Taylor's weight. I think if we had 3-minute rounds in women's boxing, I think Amanda Serrano would be the undisputed champion at Katie Taylor's weight. That's but not trying to disrespect Katie Taylor. But what I'm saying is that whole style she's got, in and out, shoe shining, in and out, 1, 2, 3, 4, in and out, 1, 2, 3, 4, in and out, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what happens tonight when it was met with pressure, a solid jab, constant body work, cutting off the ring. You could see what happened when it was met with brute force on the inside, shoving, pushing, elbowing, bringing the uppercut up the middle. Chantelle Cameron showed you what proper, I'm just not being disrespectful, but Chantelle Cameron showed you the difference tonight between amateur boxing and professional boxing. And the only other women's fighter I've seen who fights like that, and I'm not just saying it because she's on Queensberry, but other than Amanda Serrano, is Raven Chapman. Raven Chapman. There's a reason why Frank Warren signed Raven Chapman, but we'll talk about that another time. Raven Chapman is the only other female fighter I've seen who fights in that sort of pro style, that aggressive pro style. I wouldn't say Clarissa Shields is quite there, but Clarissa Shields would hold her own 3. I'll tell you this now, Clarissa Shields, 3 minutes. You bring Clarissa Shields 12 rounds, 3 minutes. Clarissa Shields would still hold every single belt in her division. She's a different kettle of fish. So let's go through your comments. What do you guys think about my comments? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Listen, I thought we were going to get a dodgy decision tonight. I thought the commentary was appalling from Andy Lee and Michaela Meyer was dreadful. I mean, look, they were almost cheering for Katie Taylor in the commentary booth, which is fine. Look, I understand, but you have to be impartial. Like, people are paying good money for DAZN pay-per-view. By the way, we've got about 128 in here in the chat. If you like to hit the like button, please feel free to hit the like button. If you'd like to be a subscriber, please feel free to subscribe and become part of the chat. I think Katie Taylor's a warrior, and she's done very, very good things for the sport of female boxing. And she was very, very magnanimous in defeat tonight, yeah? I'm just telling you straight up, right? I'm just telling you straight up. She's talking about an immediate rematch with Savannah, with Chantelle Cameron. Unless there's a dodgy judge's decision, she hasn't got the beating of Chantelle Cameron at the minute, unless there's a dodgy judge. Because her style of boxing, her amateur style of boxing, in my opinion, doesn't work, yeah, against an opponent this big, who can apply this much pressure, who genuinely has the power to hurt, land effective shots, and make those shots count. And you saw that tonight. The body work was absolutely fantastic from Chantelle Cameron tonight. Chantelle Cameron boxed a proper fight. That was proper boxing, what we saw tonight. On some of these other cards, some of the stuff we see wasn't proper boxing, but that was superb from Chantelle. And she could have done a few more things for me in that ring tonight. Chantelle. But I think, like I said, because she's fighting away from home, and again, because Chantelle Cameron's fighting away from home, I think there was the pressure there on Chantelle Cameron to go out there, and she had to be seen to be busy. She had to be seen to be overly busy. So I actually think Chantelle Cameron put her chin out to dry a few more times than she would have liked tonight. She almost had to take one to land one tonight, because if she played it too cute, she wasn't going to get the decision. But I just feel like, for me, we are seeing the end of Katie Taylor, to be honest. Unless we get some kind of controversial decision in Dublin in the rematch, I think we are seeing the end of Katie Taylor. And listen, I've heard nothing but good things about Ross Enema as a coach, but you know, the woman's 35 years old. In my humble opinion, she just needs to correct a few things, man. For me, you know, stop throwing so many combinations, Katie Taylor. Learn to mix it up. Stop lunging in with your chin up. Use a jab in a fight. What do you guys think? Press 8 if you agree with me on this. The jab from Katie Taylor. The lack of a jab. Do you guys see that or do I see that? It amazes me that someone has become undisputed champion without throwing the jab that much in their fights. It's unbelievable. Do you guys not think? The real lack of a jab from Katie Taylor. The reason why they say the jab is the best punch in boxing is because the jab creates distance offensively. It creates distance defensively. It sets up your offense. It sets up your defense. It sets up all sorts. There's a reason why the jab is considered the best punch in boxing. And I'm very, very surprised that Katie Taylor has got so far, you know, becoming one of the greatest women's boxers of all time with a real lack of a jab. What do you guys think about that? Just no jab to speak of. And that's been not just the case in this fight, but that's been the case in several fights. And you saw it tonight with Cameron, completely different story. Cameron understood there. Cameron understood the importance of the jab in boxing, to position yourself in the ring constantly. Solid jab, knocking Katie Taylor back in lines. And then what does she do when she lands that solid jab? Comes forward, vacates the space, close the space down. There's a reason why they say the jab is the most important punch in boxing. Did you see a jab from Katie Taylor tonight? I didn't see a jab from Katie Taylor. That's just me. I didn't see much of a jab. I saw plenty of leaning in. I saw plenty of lunging in and throwing left, right, left, right, left, right. And do you guys see the other thing she does as well? Jumps in, chin up, and it's all hooks, wide shots, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I don't want to be too down on Katie Taylor, and I'll let you guys. Let's read your comments. If you guys if I haven't read all your comments, feel free to type them in. Let's go through your comments. Tony, if you want to come, if anybody wants to call in, let me know. But I just think we're seeing an evolution in boxing, and I think 3-minute rounds would take the sport to a new level. And I don't think Katie Taylor, and I respect Katie Taylor, she's a warrior. She got in the ring tonight. She took her licks against a much bigger woman. Right, she took her licks against a bigger woman, and she stayed in there. I thought she was gonna get stopped in that fight, and she hung in there. And she's a very, very tough fighter, and she's done great things. She's shone the light on women's boxing. But all I'm saying is this: not hating. I'm just telling you. I think now we're beginning to see an evolution. Money's coming into the sport. The talent pool is growing, and I'm just saying, you can tell now by some of the stars of the fighters we're beginning to see: Chantelle Cameron's, Raven Chapman's, these kind of fighters. The sport is now starting to go more away from amateur boxing point scoring, and it's now starting to go towards breaking down fighters, hurting fighters. And my belief tonight is if we had 3-minute rounds in boxing, Chantelle Cameron would have stopped Katie Taylor midway through this fight tonight. Would you agree with that? Would you disagree? Mr. Anderson says it's because the opposition is so poor. She got away with it because of the 2-minute rounds and no good opponents. I don't want to hate. I really do think 2-minute rounds suits Katie Taylor's style of boxing, to be honest. And again, look at what we talked about, amateur boxing from pro boxing, 2-minute rounds versus 3-minute rounds. I really do think 2-minute rounds does suit Katie Taylor. And I think if they do ever start having women's title fights at 3-minute rounds, again, I think you're going to see, because if you look at it in a minute, these women are fighting 10-2s. 10-2s is 20 minutes. That's the equivalent of under 7 rounds in a men's world title fight. Do you guys, I always say this, but do you guys understand how short these fights are? 20 minutes in a boxing ring for a world title. That's the equivalent of Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko fighting less than 7 rounds tonight for undisputed. Can you understand the gap between female boxing and men's boxing? Can you imagine if you said to Vasily Lomachenko tonight, Vasily, you're going to box for an undisputed title tonight. You're going to box for about 6 3/4 rounds. We need to get 3-minute rounds of women's boxing and help these ladies take it. And it will bring more eyes on the sport. You'll get more stoppages in the sport. You'll get more stoppages in the sport. You'll get more knockouts in the sport. It will enable girls with a different skill set to come through, in my opinion. You won't, there'll be a lot less reliance on an amateur background. And there'll be more. And I always say, can you imagine fighters like Carl Froch? Can you imagine if you said to Carl Froch, Carl, you're going to box for a world title tonight. You're going to box for 6 3/4 rounds. Would Carl Froch ever win any world title if he had to box for 6 3/4 rounds? No. Carl Froch was an outlaster. Carl Froch was a 15-round fighter. Carl Froch used to turn it on 10, 11, 12. That used to be peak time for Carl Froch. Am I right or am I wrong about that? Look at them fighters. Think about how the history of boxing would change if men's fighters were fighting for six fucking rounds. You would have a completely different set of champions. Amir Khan would be the undisputed. Do you not understand that if we had 6-minute rounds, Amir Khan would be the greatest fighter? Amir Khan would be bigger than Muhammad Ali. Amir Khan would be like a fucking 18-weight world champion. What, we're only fighting 6 rounds. 2-minute rounds with a 1-minute gap. Amir Khan will go up to heavyweight and win a world title. That's how different we're talking. We're talking about completely different sports. Darren Riggs-Long says, I don't think she would have been stopped in 3-minute rounds as the girls paced themselves and it would be a lot slower and possibly suit Taylor at this age as she can get her flow in and move. It's a good theory. But here's my theory on that, Darren. When she gets hurt, and she got hurt in the Serrano fight and she got hurt tonight, she's going to have to survive a lot longer. And what do you think about that, Darren? That's going to be a difference because she got hurt in the Serrano fight badly. And she was hurt in the fight tonight. But she's not going to have, oh, there's only 20 more seconds. Oh, there's only 15 more seconds. Oh, I've only got to survive. It's going to be a minute. And that minute's going to be the longest minute of her life. And then she has to go into another 3-minute round. That's why you get so many stoppages in pro boxing compared to stoppages in amateur boxing. And that's why I think, she'd have a lot longer to survive. So that's my opinion. I think 3-minute rounds completely changes it. Darren says, I did have it. Cameron, 7 rounds to 3. I agree. I don't know what those commentators were talking about. I thought the commentary was embarrassing. I thought, we have to be honest as a commentary team. Are we counting body shots in boxing? Do you guys think that we're not counting body shots enough in boxing? I mean, I saw Chantelle Cameron. Look at this uppercut she was like. Look at this uppercut that she landed on Katie Taylor's chin. Did you guys think that Cameron hurt Taylor? I thought Cameron hurt Taylor multiple times. Knocked her off her feet on occasions, and some of the body shots. I honestly thought Katie Taylor was gonna take a knee at one point. Big shots she was taking. Big shots. You can see the one here. These uppercuts. And again, you can see the uppercuts because you can see the way Taylor was fighting. Look at Taylor. Squared up. And even there, you can see the head's leaned over. Squared up. Head leaned over on the inside. Can you see all this stuff? Again, in amateur boxing, you know what I mean? A lot of the punches that are being thrown are straight 1-2s and hooks. Not a lot of uppercuts getting thrown in the amateur boxing fights that I've seen. I could be wrong. Do you know what I mean? In amateur boxing, it's a lot of flurries. 1-2s, hooks here and there. Not a lot of uppercuts. Not a lot of uppercuts to the body. You see the head position there? Leaned over, arched over, all squared up. Look at that. Center line nice and open. Uppercut coming right up the middle. She was hit with these kind of shots all night long tonight. I don't know how anybody could think she was in that fight. Just being honest with you. She's a warrior. And she took the punishment, but she got beaten up tonight for me. She got beaten up. That's just my opinion. And you have to judge, like, who would you rather be tonight if you was in that ring? If you was in that ring tonight with your chin on the line, who would you rather be? Would you rather be Chantelle Cameron or Katie Taylor? I'm just going to be honest with you. I'd rather be Chantelle Cameron. She's consistently hurt Taylor. Cameron was never hurt once in the fight. She dished out the punishment. Katie Taylor landed some very good quality shots, particularly late on. The one thing I would say that I'd like to see more from Cameron is, I haven't talked about Benn and Brooke yet, mate. No. Taylor likes that little check left hook. That's a little meat and drink shot. And Amanda Serrano fell into that trap because Amanda Serrano's nowhere near as good a boxer as Chantelle Cameron or Katie Taylor. But you see Katie Taylor, she likes to walk opponents onto that little check left hook and spin off, right? Because of the pressure from Chantelle Cameron, because of the solid jab from Chantelle Cameron, knocking Katie Taylor off balance, pushing her back in straight lines, she wasn't as effective with that shot tonight, but she was still able to land it a little bit more than what I would like. I'd like to see Chantelle Cameron feint a little bit more on Katie Taylor in the rematch, because that's the shot that Katie Taylor's looking for. She's always looking, because she doesn't jab very much, Katie Taylor. She doesn't jab. So she's always looking for maybe one of the 2 shots. It's either that little right-hand counter over the top, or it's normally that check left hook and spin off to the center of the ring. So she backs us. So when she gets backed up to the ropes, she's always looking, drops her hands, drops her shoulders, looks for that little left hook and looks to spin off. If I'm Chantelle Cameron in the rematch, just like to see, as you're pushing her back in straight lines off that jab, just throw a few more feints, try and draw that left hook and work off it. Just try and throw a few more feints, try and draw that left hook off her. Try and fuck up her time on that left hook, draw off it and work off them shots. Try and counter off her counter. But I thought it was a very good performance tonight. Unadulterated Truth, big up, says, who looks exactly like Barbershop Conversations, by the way. Press 1 if you think Unadulterated Truth looks exactly like Barbershop Conversations out here. You've got Barbershop Conversations. Man, Barbershop Conversations done try and slip in my chat, yeah? Man must have brushed his teeth with some extra white Colgate and tried to done slip in my chat with a big smile on his face, yeah? Acting like I don't know who he is. Big shout out to Barbershop Conversations there. With a rather nice looking with a rather nice looking brown female in the chat. Big up to Unadulterated Truth there. He's saying, what's he saying? Unadulterated Truth. Somebody convinced Taylor years ago that she was a female Roy Jones. Her emulation of this style is evident, and she's never grown. But this is what we see. This is why, and I say it. And Tony's come on this channel. He said it, and he's obviously Tony's been in the gym with world class. You know, I don't want to be too harsh on Katie Taylor because she's a warrior. But if she's thinking about sticking in boxing, that's what I'm going to say. This is how I phrase it. If she's thinking about staying in the sport of boxing and challenging some of these young bucks, right, and not retiring, right, then what she needs to do, she does need to adapt her style, you know, because the reflexes only stay with you for so long. The reflexes only stay with you for so long. The athleticism can only stay with you for so long. You do need a bit of IQ. To me, to be honest, you do need a bit of IQ. I would love to see the statistics on how many jabs Katie Taylor threw and landed tonight. I would love to see the statistics on that. They say the jab is the best punch in boxing. You're dealing with a bigger, stronger opponent. No attempt to out jab Chantelle Cameron tonight. No attempt. No willingness to exchange jabs with Chantelle Cameron tonight. No willingness to use lead hand control to create distance to stop Chantelle Cameron walking in for free tonight from Katie Taylor. I didn't think it was a good performance, to be honest. I'll be honest with you. I think she's been on the slide for some time now. I think she's been relying on speed and relying on her power at the lower weights. And I think that... And can I just say one thing about Katie Taylor? It's kind of ironic, you know. You know when she first started, she was quite a bit of a body puncher. Do you guys remember when Katie Taylor first started? She was quite a bit of a body puncher. She was quite a bit of a body puncher when she first started. And she was on Sky Sports Cards. She was actually quite known for being a ruthless body puncher. And even now, she's kind of veered away from some of the body punching and now moved to that. And credit to her trainer, Ross Enema, who was telling her tonight, slide down to the body, try and take some wind out of Cameron because she's putting so much pressure on you. Try and take some wind out of her. Katie Taylor was always a very, very good body puncher early in her career, but she's kind of descended into a fucking... I really do think she's the female version of Ahmed Khan. That's my opinion. Let's go through some more. Boxing Madness says, a competitive fight, but Cameron won clearly for me, clearly. I don't know how anybody could score that fight for Katie Taylor, but let me know if you disagree. Mr. Anderson said, you hit on a good point about Chantelle having to force everything as they knew they had to. Absolutely. You can see in Cameron's performance tonight. Chantelle Cameron hung her chin out to dry more than she would have because she has to put... every time she's away from... One judge tonight scored it 95-95. One judge tonight scored that fight a draw. How do you score that fight a draw? How do you look at... Here's the scorecards. We've got them live on the screen. Let's have a look at this. Somebody tonight has scored this card in the middle and in the yellow. Patrick Morley. This man's managed to score this fight 95-95. How can you score that a draw? The last round went to Katie Taylor. I'll give you that. Let's have a look. What round did she give Katie Taylor? Actually, can I say I did actually miss the first two rounds, so I'm really talking about something I haven't watched fully. But let's have a look. He gave Katie Taylor rounds 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and 10. What? Oh, no, sorry. He gave Katie Taylor's rounds 7, 8, and 10. So he gave Katie Taylor 3 out of the 4 rounds. Tony's saying he had it 7-3 Taylor, and you want me to give you the link and let you on this channel? Fuck, I want to let you on for Tony with your 7-3 Taylor. I think you just live to wind me up, Tony. I honestly think that Tony lives to wind me up. I think Tony lives to wind me up. Let me get the headphones. This fool's going to come on now and tell us all why Katie Taylor won this fight. This motherfucker, every time I'm on a roll, this motherfucker has to come in, yeah, and come up with something contrarian. Big Tony. 1 second. 1 second. Let me get, before Tony gets, let me get the headphones on. You guys are dying to hear from King Tony, who, like I said before, is very, very experienced in the sport of boxing. Right. I believe my headphones are working. So yeah, Tony's got the link. He'll be in a second. Chevin, if you want to pop in, feel free. But this card 95.95. I mean, what the fucking bumper clock are we on about with this card here? I mean, he gave Katie. What do you guys think about this? He gave Katie Taylor 7, 8, and 10. So according to this, I thought was it round 7, 8, and 10. I'm just not seeing that. I'm just not seeing it. I thought Chantelle Cameron dominated. I thought Katie Taylor definitely won the last round. A lot of clinching in that last round, but Chantelle Cameron couldn't get off any clean work. So definitely the last round I will give to Katie Taylor. And I definitely gave her, the odd round here or there. But, I thought Chantelle Cameron clearly won that. I don't see that being a draw at all. 96-94. So can I ask you a question about this card here in pink? This card here in pink, yeah? From Raul Caiz, yeah? 96-94. So am I right in thinking that if Raul Caiz gives one more round to Katie Taylor, that this fight would have been a draw? Press 1 if I'm correct about that, and press 2 if I'm wrong. Sorry, I'm out there at the minute. My head's spinning, but am I right about that? I wasn't very good at GCSE maths, but I'm reading these Katie Taylor cards tonight. Am I reading that if Raul Caiz gave one more round to Katie Taylor, that this fight tonight would have been a majority draw, 95-95 on 2 cards? I mean, that is a problem. Do you guys agree with that? That to me is a big problem. That we were one round away tonight from getting a majority draw. That to me is a big problem with the judging there. That is just, I don't understand. How do you excuse that? I mean, Katie Taylor herself isn't even sure she did enough to win. I mean, if you look at the post-fight comments, if I can get to them. I mean, Katie Taylor herself isn't sure she did enough to win tonight. She's on record of saying that. But according to these cards, she was one round away from getting a draw. Katie Taylor asked if she felt she did enough to win versus Chantelle Cameron. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'll have to look back at the fight. Congratulations to Chantelle on a fantastic performance. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am looking forward to this rematch. Let's just get some online reaction to these cards. They don't look right to me. Oh, IFL posted the jab stats. Really, I'd like to see that. Tony, are you coming on to ruin my day or not? Let me send this for the link. You need to give me an email address, Tony, so I can just email the link to your personal email address. I done added you on Twitter, but you don't use it. I done added you on Twitter already, Tony, but you don't use it anyway. You don't use it. Too busy at the gym, lifting fucking heavy weights and such and such. Links in the chat if you want to pop on. Let's have a look at this, and then we'll go on these jab stats. Let's have a look. Can't these judges add up? Wow, Eddie tried to rob Cameron. That's not Eddie. Patrick Morley definitely needs an appointment at his local optician. What a mess. Jesus fucking Christ. This guy thinks it was a close fight. Was a close fight, no doubt. The right decision too. This was Cameron's fight. Chevin's in here trying to wind me up, talking about a robbery. Jesus. It was a robbery. Christ. Corrupt judges trying to rob Cameron. Bloody hell. Do you know what this reminds me of? It's not quite as emphatic, right? But these judges' cards tonight, it's not quite the same, but it does remind me a little bit of those Canelo Alvarez and Dimitri Bivol cards. Do you remember those? Who remembers those Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo Alvarez cards? When somehow Canelo Alvarez was like one round away, yeah, from getting a draw with Dimitri Bivol in a fight that Dimitri Bivol won like by about 5 rounds, easy. But you know, there's the Canelo tax in it. Dimitri Bivol had to pay the Canelo tax, right? Let's have a look at these punch stats, because I'll be amazed if Katie Taylor threw a lot of jabs. Oh, Tony's here. Tony, give me 3 seconds. 1 second. Let's have a look at these jabs from Taylor. So it says Taylor threw 88 jabs tonight. I didn't see that. Chantelle Cameron threw 232 jabs. So Chantelle Cameron, according to this, threw 4 times as many jabs as Katie Taylor did in that fight. I don't believe this. These punch stats are a prime reason why I'm just not a fan of punch stats. I don't feel like Katie Taylor threw 88 jabs tonight. 88 jabs. Does that sound right to you? Press 1 if that sounds right. Press 2 if that sounds wrong. But even if we go along with that, you can see there. Look at Chantelle Cameron. Chantelle Cameron landed 3 times as many jabs as Katie Taylor tonight. 3 times, 232. Look at this. What do you think about this? Quickly before I bring Tony in. I'll bring Tony in right now. Chantelle, unmute yourself, Tony. It's fine. Chantelle Cameron here, according to these punch stats, threw 232 jabs and only landed 27. So Katie Taylor, according to these punch stats, only landed 6 jabs less than Chantelle Cameron. These punch stats don't seem right to me. All right, Tony. What do you think about the fight tonight? Give me your general thoughts, and welcome back, my friend. Welcome back.
Appreciate it. And I would say that the punch stats seem very correct to me, because you got to keep in mind, jabs are anytime you throw the lead hand forward. So every time Katie Taylor threw the flurries, the lead hand was a jab, and she did a lot of flurries. So that those would have racked up your jabs versus being from range and just throwing a jab. So she probably threw about 88 jabs. But as you see, Katie Taylor was much more accurate when she let her shots go. And see, you were talking about earlier, amateur Katie Taylor is not pro, and I disagree. Pro's more about being cleaner, harder, better shots, accuracy. That's really what matters in the pros. Amateurs is, well, it used to be, they've changed it up a little bit now, but the whiter the glove, whether it touches the face or the stomach, the most. Whoever lands the most wins, regardless of power. In my opinion, the reason why I gave it to Katie Taylor, even though I saw her being outlanded, was because the cleaner, harder shots were definitely by Taylor. And it's reflective on Chantelle's face. Look at her face. It was all bruised up. Taylor barely had a mark on her, and she was a smaller woman moving up. So that tells you right there off the bat who was landing the harder, cleaner shots.
Do you mind if I just jump in? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
I don't think faces have ever been an accurate indicator of who punches harder in a fight, because some fighters just mark up. Some fighters just mark up absolutely terribly. You know that. There's some fighters that absolutely cut up over nothing. We've seen time and time again in boxing, fighters who have been dishing out punishment, hurting fighters, stopping fighters, and they cut very easily. I'm trying to think of a British fighter as an example. The only fighter I can think of as an example right now is Ricky Hatton. If you used to look at Ricky Hatton in the way to the walkout, Ricky Hatton would get cut. There are some fighters that just get cut. There are some fighters that just mark up. So I don't think, this is my opinion, Tony. Like I said, I'm not trying to debate with you. I'm just trying to balance it out, but I'll let you come back. I'm just going to say, I personally don't think that how somebody looks is necessarily an accurate indicator of, who's landed the harder shots because of that. But anyway, this is your show. You carry on, Tony. Please carry on with your opinion.
I would say I do not disagree with what you said, but context is key, and context is everything. If you look at Chantelle Cameron's fights, she rarely ever gets marked up. In fact, she's normally clean-faced out of every single fight she's been in. If you look at Katie Taylor on the flip side, whether it be way back against Lennon Artu, Pursoon, Serrano, etc., she's marked up in almost every single fight she's in. The only outlier was this time she didn't get very marked up. So she's normally the one bruised up after the fight, looking like she lost the fight, even though she won. But in this fight, she was pretty faced. Whereas the one who never gets marked up, Chantelle, she was all beat up in the face. So context is key. But again, I saw, I'll give an example, because I know a lot of people would have gave round 9 to Chantelle. Okay, I gave that to Taylor. Give it to Taylor. Because if you watch that round, at the very end of the round, Taylor catches her and damn near knocks her off balance. And it was pretty close round, pretty back and forth. So that, to me, swayed that round. Now, I can tell you the round by rounds, what I gave to Taylor, what I gave to Cameron, if you want to hear it, and then we could go back and forth off of that.
I mean, before we go full back or forth for that, let me just say, from my opinion, right? Oh, excuse me. So, in my opinion, I thought that Chantelle Cameron was never hurt in tonight's fight. I don't know what the chat think. Let me drop me a comment. Let me know if you agree with me with that. I don't think Chantelle Cameron was hurt at any point tonight. I thought Katie Taylor was hurt multiple times in the fight tonight by body shots, multiple times in the fight tonight by uppercuts. And how I like to score rounds, and we all have different ways of seeing things, is I like to look at who lands the most effective shots, right? To me, who lands the most effective shots? That takes precedence. There's like a sliding scale of how I judge fights. But one of the things that takes the most precedence is who lands the most effective shots, the most effective, hurtful shots in any given round. And for me, throughout those rounds, I felt that Chantelle Cameron consistently landed the most effective and hurtful shots. And to me, Chantelle Cameron never looked like she was hurt at any point in the fight. Kept up the pressure, kept up the pace, was never, Katie Taylor for me, never managed to once dissuade her, And that kind of, in my opinion, kind of gives you a little clue as to why, I don't think Katie Taylor's was the harder punch in the ring tonight. Because Katie Taylor was never able to dissuade Chantelle Cameron once from applying the pressure. Never able to. She was never in control of the pace of the fight. She was never able to stop Chantelle Cameron coming onto her. She didn't look in control of the pace of the fight. In fact, I would say Katie Taylor spent most of the fight bouncing off the ropes. Again, another key sign for me that, you know, the more effective puncher, the harder puncher was Katie Taylor. But Tony, counter that with your opinion and counter my opinion on amateur boxing. What do you think about my analysis of Katie Taylor tonight and about female boxing? You know, Katie Taylor tonight, in my opinion, lunging in and throwing a lot of combinations, a lot of shoe shining. Chantelle Cameron, to me, with a little bit more of a, in my opinion, a pro style of boxing. You've got a lot more experience. I've got none. Give me some thoughts on what you think about that as well, Tony.
So I'm gonna say this.
I'm going to mute myself, so keep talking. I'm going to mute myself now. Keep going.
Punch efficiency, effectiveness is not always what backs somebody up. You got to understand, Katie Taylor moved up. She was a smaller fighter. So strength and size will back you up too. You can impose your will on somebody without ever throwing a punch. You can keep them going backwards off your sheer mass. And that's why Taylor kept getting backed up, because she was now for once the smaller fighter, where she's normally accustomed to being the bigger fighter. So the size of your body will push somebody backwards. As far as being effective, I disagree. I think it's in the numbers. You don't throw at 11% accuracy and you're very effective. You don't throw, 3 times the amount of jabs, but only land 6 more shots. That to me is amateurish. Amateurish is being a machine gun, just letting a lot of shots go, hoping they land so you score, because whoever lands the most wins the round. It doesn't matter who lands the harder shots, the more effective shots in the amateurs. It's whoever scores the most won the round. Effective is more like a sniper rifle, where you're lining up your shot and bow, when you hit, you make it count. That's why your numbers may be lower for thrown, but your accuracy will be much higher, because you're calculating, you're looking, you're picking your shots. So when they land better. Now, again, I do agree, Cameron landed some good shots. I did a breakdown of the fight, put up a video after it was over, and she did work the body very good. I think that Cameron put out the blueprint for how to beat Taylor. Focus her body and she will fold. She can't take the body shots. I don't know why Cameron didn't just exploit that with the left hooks to the body, which was really hurting Taylor, especially early. But overall,
was Chantelle Cameron ever hurt in that fight, Tony?
I didn't say she was hurt. I said at the end of the 9th round, she got.
No, I'm just asking. Do you think Cameron was ever hurt in that fight?
I don't think she was ever hurt, but
do you think Taylor was hurt in that fight?
Well, of course, she got hurt by some body shots. But here's the thing: being hurt in one moment in one round might win you that round if you're controlling it. But just because you were hurt here or there throughout 10 rounds doesn't mean you won all 10 rounds. Just because you hurt somebody in round 2 or round 4 doesn't by default mean you won the other 8 rounds. So, yes, I agree that it looked like Chantelle hurt Katie, especially to the body. But when you're moving up for the first time, fighting somebody bigger than you've ever fought before, them shots are going to hurt because you're the smaller fighter. So that's to be expected.
Okay, we'll have to agree to disagree there. We'll agree to disagree there. I'm not going to drag it out. I just feel effectiveness in terms of, I felt that Chantelle Cameron, and let me just quickly say, amateur star. I know what you said about, you think, pro boxing is being more accurate. Amateur boxing is, being more inaccurate, but hoping to land on volume. Basically volume. Do you know what I mean? What we said earlier. Do you know what I mean? Quantity over quality. I would say, despite these punch stats, right, that these punch stats appear to indicate that Katie Taylor was the more accurate fighter. Obviously, it shows that Chantelle Cameron threw twice as many punches. For me tonight, and this is what I will say, and I've said this before. For me, Katie Taylor tonight, like I said before, like you admitted on the jab, complete lack of a jab tonight. Obviously, as you said, they're counting the lead hands, from the flurries that Katie Taylor threw tonight. Didn't see much of a jab from Katie Taylor tonight. And you give me your opinion on that in a minute, Tony, because I thought, for me, like I said before, they always teach us the jab's the most important punch in boxing. I didn't see much of a jab from Katie Taylor. I saw a very, very strong thudding jab that was landing continuously by Chantelle Cameron tonight, which appeared to be hurting Katie Taylor, moving her back in lines as well and things like that. But again, also, the lunging from outside of range to inside of range from Katie Taylor again. When you're setting up your jab, as you know, when you're tip-tapping with the jab or when you're throwing that jab, it makes it a lot more easier for you to get your distance down and for you to know when to go in, when to go out. You know your distance a lot better with the jab, which is why some people think it's the most important punch in boxing, because it sets up your offense and sets up your defense. And again, I think with the light of the lack of a jab we saw from Katie Taylor tonight and in the previous fights led to lots of lunging in, chin up and throwing left and right combinations. And she was lunging in and she was getting timed in the middle of those combinations. And I thought that was a very, very, very much reminiscent of a sort of an amateur style of boxing where you're in range, you leap in, shoe shy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leap out. We've seen quite a few amateur boxers turn pro, quite high profile ones like Amir Khan come in and do a similar style of boxing. But I thought tonight that style was beaten and outdone by Chantelle Cameron's style, which was less flashy, hands a lot higher, but picking her shots for me a lot better, timing Katie Taylor in the middle of the combinations as Taylor was lunging in, chin up and throwing those flurries. You saw Chantelle Cameron left hook to the body, right hook to the body, and Tony, she landed a lot of straight uppercuts as well. And another thing about Taylor, and I want your comments on this, and again, I thought it was a little bit amateurish, was her balance on the inside, Tony. She walked herself onto a lot of uppercuts tonight, which is where this picture on the screen came from. She walked herself onto a good 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. These are big, big shots that she walked onto. And you can see here in a picture, this was, for me, symptomatic of what Katie Taylor was doing in the fight tonight, Tony, for me. No inside game whatsoever. The only inside game that Katie Taylor has, is to simply square up, try and put her chin down and come up with left and right hooks, left and right hooks, left and right hooks. Press 1 in the chat if you agree with me on that. Press 2 in the chat if you disagree with me on that. I don't think she has much of an inside game, which again is very, very much, again, a bit of amateury in my opinion compared to pro boxing. And you see her in a photo here tonight. She was squaring up on the inside. Her balance was off. She was leaning over that front foot. She was almost falling into the center line head first and managed to walk herself into a number of combinations. So you don't have to agree with that. But let me ask you, Tony, my opinion going forward is that female boxing, as more money is coming into the sport of female boxing, as it's getting more attention, and Katie Taylor's been a great trailblazer for the sport, I think we're starting to see now a different style of boxing. I think we're starting to see a more pro style, more. The sport's getting more attention from professional coaches in this country. I think the talent pool's getting bigger. We're starting to see a more of a pro style. Do you think, Tony? And please feel free to rebuttal any points I've just made there. But do you also feel like that Katie Taylor's style is going to be sufficient for her to continue to be a dominant force in female boxing? Or do you think now that, these young bucks now are beginning to catch up with her? By the way, Tony, I think the blueprint to beating Katie Taylor was laid out in the Pearsoon fight, by the way. I think the Pearsoon fight, Chantelle Cameron basically finished off what Delphine Pearsoon started in New York City about 3 years ago. But that's just my opinion. Unmute yourself, Tony, and I will mute myself.
Well, let me put out this disclaimer real fast. I have never been the biggest person high up on Katie Taylor because I thought she collected several losses by now, but she's always one on the judges' scorecard like Canelo. I thought Leonard Artu beat her. I thought Pursoon beat her in the first fight, and I thought Serrano beat her. So in my opinion, she should have had 3 losses coming into this fight. But in this particular fight, I thought she won. As far as her style goes, being amateurish, I don't know, because it's hard for me to say whether it is or not, because I will say the lack of the jab that she has shown is a big technical flaw. However, in her own weight class, she's been able to get away with it because, again, she's been the bigger fighter. She's never been undersized like this before, where you would need to rely on the jab more, because if you can walk through somebody and impose your will on them, the jab doesn't really become as needed, especially when you're bigger and stronger. Yes, it's the great, like you said, it's the best punch in boxing. By all means, it can set up shots, it can blind a fighter. The shots that you don't see hurt you the most. However, if you are just stronger and bigger than somebody, you don't have to rely on it. You can rely on your size, your guard to get in and let your shots go. So while I do agree with you that it is the most important punch, it's not always needed depending on the circumstance. But I think it should be 3-minute rounds to begin with. UFC women fighters have proven that females can fight for more than 2 minutes because they fight for 5 minutes in UFC, and they have proven that they're just as tough as the men. In UFC, women's sports is bigger than boxing because they do what the men do, and it's more exciting. 3 minutes will give them more knockouts. 3 minutes is just better overall, in my opinion. I would even say give them 12 rounds. 36 minutes, just like the men, versus 10 for championship fights. As far as Taylor goes, will she be successful going forward? It all depends on what she does. Like, she's what? Probably 36 years old now. She's older. But at the same time, women are like the opposite of men. They seem to get better with age, whereas men start to get worse. You really see the women start to get into their prime around their mid-30s, whereas men, by their mid-30s, are on the decline. So in her own weight class, I think she could still be successful. I just think in this case, she was fighting a fighter bigger, taller, longer, and was technically better because I like Cameron. I like the fact that she finally knocked off Mick No Skills, who is Miss Caskill. I hate how she fights, Rock'em Sock'em Robot. But she knocked Mick No Skills off a totem pole. Like, she knocked her straight to the bottom off the top. So I like her for that. But again, like, I saw my eyes saw more cleaner, harder shots landed by Taylor versus how you saw it. So it's just a different. And I even said at the end of my video, I can understand why ringside judges, fans, whoever, scored it the way they did because of the cleaner shots. But I mean, excuse me, the volume of shots. But I thought Katie did the better work for the cleaner shots.
Tony, are you right to stay for a couple more minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
We can't go anywhere without talking about another fight that's happening tonight. We will come back to finish up on Taylor versus Cameron later on. But we're going for nearly an hour. 177 in the chat. Please feel free, if you'd like to be part of the chat, feel free to subscribe and become part of the chat. We don't take any money, no super chat. Please hit the like button. We've got 180 people. We've had close to 200 here all night, and now had that many likes. Tony, I haven't watched Devin Haney in a while. Actually, that's not true. I can't remember if it was the first fight or the second fight with Cambozos. I watched one of them. I thought it was really boring. I watched a couple of rounds. I switched off. I watched Devin Haney versus Linares, bits of that where he got hurt and he dominated the fight. Lomachenko is my all-time favorite fighters. And Tony, by the way, Tony, tell us your all-time favorite fighters as well. By the way, Tony, give us your all-time favorite fighters. But I mean, fighters that, Tony, that you've gone into the gym, yeah? You've gone into the gym, Tony, and you've been like, shit, man, I need to copy this stuff. Or man, it's like, for me, Tony, it was always Lennox Lewis, Vasyl Lomachenko, Alexander Usyk, Guillermo Rigondeaux, David Haye. I think those are the four. And Floyd Mayweather was actually number one. I think Mayweather and Lomachenko are probably the biggest influences. And I'm a part of the garbage, but where I see them box and like, fuck, I want to try and do that in the gym. So give us your list, Tony. But what are your predictions tonight? Guys in the chat, give us your predictions. Me and Tony will read them out. If you got any questions for Tony, Tony will answer those questions quickly. Tony, how do you see this Haney versus Lomachenko fight going? I haven't really been keeping an eye on Haney. I've seen bits and bobs. Lomachenko's one of my favorite fighters of all time. I've just don't know, Tony. I never, ever go on feelings. But there's a lot of people, Tony, writing off Lomachenko. And I don't know why they're writing him off. We'll talk about it in a minute. But I've got a feeling, Tony. I've got a feeling. Give us your thoughts, Tony.
So this fight to me is very 50-50. And it's all going to be, in my opinion, contingent on how Devin Haney approaches the fight. I did a live on this, and I picked Haney to win. However, after I saw Haney push Lomachenko, I kind of think Loma's in his head and he's got too much invested. And if that be the case, he's not going to fight like he normally fights, which is very negative. If he fights Lomachenko like he fought Jojo Diaz or Linares, there's a good possibility that Loma is going to beat the living hell out of him. Like, he cannot afford to let this fight get in the pocket. Both these guys are stronger at what the other guy's weaker at. So what I mean by that is Devin is very good at distance and range and controlling it. Loma's not that good from range. He's not like a Rigondeaux where he could be 5 inches shorter than you and still beat you from the outside. He gets in mid-range, close range, and that's where he's best, really mid-range. But he can still work good, close, and in the pocket, he's very good at wrestling. Devin, again, is not good on the inside. He's horrible on the inside, and he's got no mid-range game. It's all from distance. It's all he's got. And if you look at the JoJo fight, he got hit more than he normally gets hit because he tried to be overly aggressive to prove a point, try to stop him, but he's got 2 bunny paws. He has no power. So he belongs on the outside. Like, he cannot afford to get on the inside. When you look at Lomachenko, you look at a guy that's probably got the best chin in the division at 135, despite age, and his IQ is probably the highest. Though I will say Devin's not that far behind him in IQ because he's very smart. So to conclude what I'm saying, and not to go on forever in a filibuster, I will say this. If Devin doesn't come in there aggressive and he fights him to bore the fans, I think he beats Lomachenko pretty easily. But if he tries to put on a show, if he actually tries to fight with him, go blow for blow, toe to toe, Loma will exploit him and pick him apart and beat him pretty easily.
Bloody hell, Tony. I'll tell you what. We had someone from Ring Magazine. Just quickly, Tony. We had someone from Ring Magazine, and his name's Tom Gray, right? And I thought this was really stupid. He actually changed his prediction from Haney to Lomachenko. And he changed his prediction from Haney to Lomachenko based on the fact that Lomachenko was pushed by Haney. You've had fights in the ring. I haven't. Did you ever really think, Tony, were you ever big into mind games? I've always been a believer that, look, at the end of the day, right, it's all about skill. You're fighting the man in the ring who has 2 fucking arms and 2 fucking hands. Obviously, the mental side of the game is very important. I'm not saying, you know what I mean, the mental side of the game is not important. You need to believe in yourself. You need to have some form of confidence in yourself, etc., etc. But if you had to give it a percentage, how much credence do you pay into all this shit that goes on? Who looked at who at the weigh-in? Who looked away? Who shoved who? At the end of the day, Tony, in my opinion, that's not going to have much basis or bearing on what happens in the fight. But you've actually been in the ring, so tell us what you think about that kind of thing.
So, like I said, I also changed my pick based off of the shove. I picked Devin to win the fight, and I changed my pick and my official pick because I always do the official pick after the weigh-ins because I like to see what they look like on the scale. Not to see if their weight drain looking like Kell Brook. So I wait. But yeah, the mind games, the mental game is definitely a big thing in boxing. Like in the amateurs, you don't have the build up like you do in the pros to where you do the promos, you get to have press conferences, you get to talk shit to the person, look at them. However, in the amateurs, you do sometimes enter tournaments. And in them tournaments, you can see what the brackets are and you can know who you're going to fight next in the same day. So if you knock a motherfucker out, which is normally is rarer in the amateurs because you got on the 16-ounce gloves, headgear, etc. You can start eyeing the person to start getting in their mind. And if you get them hesitant, you get them scared. You know, if you're a power puncher like I am, you already got them. Because the first time you hit them, they're like, oh, shit, here it comes. I know it's coming. So you could beat somebody mentally. So I definitely 1,000% agree with the mental game. And that's what I was saying. With the push, it seems like Devin has said everything. Loma's old. He's not that good. He brought up the Salido loss. He's done everything he can to get in Loma's head, and Loma just smiles at him like, ha, buddy, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, me? Yeah, of course I can lose. Like, I'm the smaller guy. He heavyweight. So everything Devin's tried to do to make him get confrontational has failed. And I think all that animosity built up in that push because while he was eyeing Loma, he looked at Loma, and Loma looked back at him like, bruh, you're not shit. I've been in there with people better than you. So I think he's hot-headed in this fight, and I think it'll be a tactical downfall if he fights that way.
Fantastic, Tony. Fantastic. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Tony. Right. Guys, Tony, we're going to leave it there. But, Tony, I'm planning to stay up for Lomachenko versus Haney. So if you're back and you want to pop back on, you're always welcome to pop back on, brother. Can you, we need to leave me your email so it's easier for me to send you these links, but we'll talk about that another time. But if you want to leave your email in the chat or find a way, actually, here's my email. My email is ultratechsports@gmail.com. There you go. ultratechsports@gmail.com. There you go. Feel free to hit me up in an email, Tony, so I can get in contact with you. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, Tony, you're always welcome back tonight if we're live, man. I'm hoping we'll have quite a few hundred people in here. Fingers crossed, bro.
All right, I appreciate it. If you're still live after the fight's over, I'll hop back in.
Yes,
Have a
man.
good day.
Pop back in. Absolutely. See you then. All right, brother. In a bit. All right. Good. So Tony's going to be around, hopefully. Right. What do you guys think? There's a lot of questions about this Daniel Rain. What did they weigh in behind closed doors? Because people have been asking question marks. There's supposed to be some kind of, I haven't really been following it, to be honest. There's supposed to be some second weigh-in. I think there's some rehydration clause. Am I right or wrong? And people are complaining because there's basically no proof that Devin Haney weighed in correctly at the you know what I'm talking about, guys. There's supposed to be another weigh-in. So what happened with the first weigh-in was Devin Haney apparently missed weight by 1 ounce, right? That wasn't televised. Got back on the scales, made weight, and then they came out to the crowd once he was on weight and did the ceremonial weigh-in, which you guys saw, right? So that's fine, yeah? But apparently, I think there's supposed to be a second weigh-in, all right? Either today or whatever. There's supposed to be some kind of second weigh-in. I think there might be some rehydration clause. That's right. And people are asking big question marks about nobody's actually seen Devin Haney weigh in. Like, no one's seen him weigh in. What weight is he? What is not being televised? People are a bit concerned here that they have wanted to take people's word for it that Haney is actually making weight the way he should be making weight. Does that make sense what I'm saying? People are saying, well, where's the cameras? Where are we televising this? Where's the proof that he was within the limit that Tony's just seen there? Right. It's the old IBF 10 pounds on the morning of the fight. People are trying to say, well, where's the video proof? Where's the pictures? Where's the screenshots? You know, there's been a few question marks about Haney's weight and things like that. So we'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think? I'm going to cover that fight. Lomachenko is one of my all-time favorites. Tony's got Lomachenko now. I'm just going to guess for the sake of it. I've seen Haney bits and bobs. I've seen him against Linares and I've seen him against Cambozos. And I wasn't, I like Haney a bit, but they weren't the most thrilling fights. I watch fights and I forget about them. I'll watch a fight like Taylor versus Cameron tonight. And trust me, by the time I've had a green tea in about 20 minutes, I've forgotten about the fight. So I forget about fights very, very quickly. I will say that Vasily Lomachenko is one of the best fighters I have ever seen at negating height and reach. Ever. I know he had that slip up for the first 6 rounds of the Teofimo Lopez fight, but people forget what happened in the last 6 rounds of that Teofimo Lopez fight. Press one if you agree with me that Vasily Lomachenko dominated Teofimo Lopez in that second 6 rounds. For me, dominated him in that second 6 rounds. I hate using the word narratives in boxing, right? Because it's something that a lot of Muppets do. Oh, you're trying to push a narrative. But I'm just being honest and telling you, yeah, some of the narratives that I see in boxing are very, very surprising, Teofimo Lopez schooled Vasily Lomachenko. Teofimo Lopez dominated Vasily Lomachenko. Teofimo Lopez beat up Vasily Lomachenko. If you go and look at that second six rounds, to me, that is all Lomachenko, that second 6 rounds. And you can see Lomachenko was begging for the rematch. And obviously, Teofimo wanted to make him wait. I mean, come on, look, it is what it is, And Lomachenko is one of the best I've ever seen at negating height and negating reach. Now, obviously, Haney is obviously, we're looking at somebody who could be a generational talent, yeah? But I'm just saying, the angles, the foot speed, and, Lomachenko is very, very clever with the feet. Foot feints, draws the lead, then steps in behind your shots. The way he angles, I think if he gets up on the inside or if he gets in the pocket, it could be absolutely murderous because the angles that he takes, the way he moves around, lots been made of Haney being bigger, right? As well. Tony, if you're still there, press 1, Tony, if you think I'm onto something with this, Tony, and press 2 if you disagree with this, Tony. A lot's been made of Haney's size and height and reach, right? If Vasily Lomachenko can get up close, what about Vasil's inside game in terms of the wrestling and the holding? Because what people often miss when they think about fighters like Crawford and Lomachenko are wrestlers. They are actual wrestlers. They are legitimate. They're not like professional wrestlers, right? Not like Hulk Hogan or anything, but these are guys who have quite a substantial wrestling background. These are guys who have a very, very substantial wrestling background, right? And you can see that in Crawford. When I watched Porter and Sean Crawford fight, yeah? And there was a lot of talk about Sean Porter being the bigger man, but you watch him on the inside, and Sean Porter was getting ragdolled on the inside by Terence Crawford. And I'm just saying, yeah, if they do start clinching and Haney's tight at the weight, the last thing you want if you're tight at the weight is someone roughing you up in the clinches, dragging you around, leaning all over you, pushing you around, ragdolling you around, and roughing you up on the inside. So it's going to be interesting because Lomachenko can handle himself, man. Lomachenko and Crawford are two guys that, when it comes to the clinching and when it comes to the grappling and the moving around and the positioning, Because that is a thing in boxing, you know. Can I just say one thing to you guys? And you guys press 7 if you understand what I'm saying, if you agree with this, and press 8 if you disagree with this. I don't work at Tony's level. Tony works at decent level. I work at the bargain bucket level. When you're coming to have your first fight in boxing and you want to put gloves on for the first time, you come and see me, yeah? And then you get beat, right? Well, one of the things that I see noobs do a lot, right, in boxing ring, when they clinch, right? You know when a guy clinches you and you're up close and he clinches, do you know what the first thing they do is? They panic and they start wrestling and they're like, and you can actually hear them grunting and they're putting all their weight and they're trying to wrestle this guy and they're trying to show who's the stronger man and they're trying to move him around and all this kind of stuff. And you know what? You kill yourself. You zap energy. There's no need to do that. What I teach in the Ultra Tech Sports Boxing Gym is use the opponent's weight against you. If you're up close, yeah, and your opponent's trying to lean on you and push you and he's trying to push you forward, don't try and meet force with force, especially if you're the smaller man, yeah? Let him put his weight on you and then just spin him. Makes sense. Use his weight against him. Let him put all his weight on you. Don't try and fight it. Let him put all his weight on you and then just turn and spin him. And then you get into where you want to get in. Does that make sense what I'm saying? There's an art. I'm not very good at fighting inside, but there's an art to doing these things. Yeah, that's it. Conveying ideas has got it bang on. Ride the clinch and let them lose. Exactly. Use their energy against them. But you see so many noobs in the gym and they're trying to fight fire with fire. Makes sense. It's almost like world's strongest man. And they're in there nearly fucking, they're constipating themselves, pushing themselves against the fucking immovable force. Let him push you. Just turn and twist, and just maneuver his body around. And guys like fall for the Lomachenko, because they have a wrestling background, right? I reckon they're pretty savvy and pretty smart, yeah, about what to do in the clinch, how to maneuver fighters around, how to do that. So I just think, like I said before, if Haney is tight of the weight and it does become a bit rough and tumble, it could be a very, 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 very interesting. Let's have a look. Let's go for some other comments. Blah, 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 blah. JBO says Haney might freeze or he might not. I'm not worried about Loma performing. Listen, Loma and Usyk right now, they don't give a fuck about Devin Haney. Man, all this push stuff, yeah? These guys are losing family, losing their friends in Ukraine. That's what's going on. These guys are making friends with people in Ukraine who aren't coming back. That's what's going on. I'm not saying they're out on the front lines because they're not on the front lines, but they were out in the war. They made friends with people and broke bread with people who put their helmets on and picked up their AKs and went out and never came home. No one gives a fuck about Devin Haney. All this kind of stuff, I'm surprised Haney even tried this. All this stuff is stupid. You're not going to intimidate a man who has been through that. Do you understand? Imagine if you made friends with somebody and they put on a helmet, put on some camos and picked up an AK and they never came back. Or they did come back, but they came back in a box. Do you understand? You're not going to intimidate those kind of people. So I don't know what Haney was trying to prove by doing that, but like I said before, I don't believe it will have much bearing on the basis of this fight. Right, let's finish up. We didn't really talk about Conor Benn and Kell Brook. I just think the Conor Benn Kell Brook thing is ridiculous. I don't really want to talk about what. Maybe we could quickly play it. Conor Benn versus Kell Brook. Conor Benn embarrassing himself again. Here we go. Here's Conor Benn, and you can see there. Conor Benn started this because he's nudged him in the back there. Can you see that? Press 1 if you can see that. He's nudged him in the back there for no fucking reason. Why has he done that for? You know what Conor Benn did as well? He released that sparring footage of Kell Brook, and he didn't even have the heart to release the whole footage of the sparring session. What happened was they chopped up the footage of him sparring with Kell Brook, and it wasn't even in time order, as we said when we did the video on it. Do you remember the sparring footage he released of Kell Brook? It wasn't even in time order. Not only did they release it in bits, but the bits were completely out of sequence. So you had like basically round 1, then round 10, then round 2, then round 8, then round 3. It was just completely all over the place. Done Kell Brook filthy with that sparring video. So Kell Brook's got every right to be upset with Conor Benn because he's just up to his old tricks. But look, he's come in here and you can see he's nudged him in the back. You see, watch him walk past. See that? He walked him past. He nudged him in the back there. There was no need to do that whatsoever. Then he walks past as if nothing's going on. So again, who does that? What do you guys think about that? Who does that? It's just, who does that, right? So already he's trying to start. And here you go. Here's his mate walking past as well, one of his mates. And then he's getting in his face and trying it off. I mean, the whole thing's just completely fucking embarrassing. The whole thing is completely fucking embarrassing. What do you guys think about that? What's Frank Smith doing? Leaning over the fucking... What's he going to do? Big Frank Smith. Leaning over there. Leaning over. Like he's going to do something. Look at Frank Smith. Like he's going to separate two of the hardest men in British boxing. These are two of the strongest men in the UK. And Frank Smith thinks he's going to be able to lean over a fucking railing and separate them. He's fucking crazy, you know. What's he playing at? Look at Frank Smith. Yeah. About as much use as a chocolate teapot there, Frank Smith. If any picture could sum up Frank Smith, yeah, in a nutshell, it would be that picture there, innit? Frank Smith, as much use as a chocolate fire engine. Oh, this boy here did a good job. Let me tell you, he did a good job. Because I tell you, you'd be shitting yourself, wouldn't you? If you're in the middle of Kell Brook and Kell Brook starts throwing punches, look at this dude here. Look at this dude here. This dude did well, you know. He did very well. He did very, very well. He wasn't overly aggressive. He was just trying to just stop the fight and protect his friends. Look, that's a very good job by my man there. That's a very, very good job, because if punches started getting thrown, that could have been very, very ugly. What do you guys think? I just think Conor Benn's a joke. That's my opinion. You know, that's my opinion on Conor Benn. You know, like I said, Conor Benn would knock me out. Would I say it's Conor Benn's face? Probably not, because he would batter me. He's a professional fighter. But let me tell you the honest truth. I've never taken performance-enhancing drugs of any kind in my life. In fact, the only thing I've taken that comes close to being a performance-enhancing drug is there's something from Holland and Barrett, which I've taken, which gives you a bit of energy. I forgot what it's called. I forgot it's that thing they put in energy drinks. Garancha? You know what I'm talking about. Garancha. It's that stuff that they put in energy drinks, but it's absolutely fine. It's anything I've ever taken. I've never taken any performance-enhancing drugs in my life. All right, so I'm definitely a cleaner athlete than Conor Benn, even though I'm an out-of-shape athlete. And, you know, like I said before, Conor Benn can't decide who he wants to be. 3 weeks ago, he was saying, I'm never boxing again with the British Border Control. I don't have to box again in Britain. I'm going to throw my license in the bin, just like my dad did. The British Boxing Border Control are out to get me. Did Conor Benn not say that? Then, 2 minutes later, he's on IFL TV, right, crying with Radio Rahim, saying he's made a big mistake, he's handled it terribly. Coincidentally, by the way, this big change of heart came after he was suspended by UCAD. Do you not find that funny, how as soon as UCAD actually put their foot down and suspend him, and it looks like there's a ban coming his way, all of a sudden we start seeing these kind of interviews where he's apologizing and he's coming in tears. Look, he's in tears, admit regrets, and now he wants to come home. So which one is it? And then 2 minutes later in this video with Kell Brook, he's back up to his old tricks again. I mean, why is he at fights? Do you guys think I've got a point there? Why is Conor Benn at fights? And why is it a good idea for Matchroom to have Conor Benn ringside at any fights? He's undergoing a suspension by UCAD for failing 2 drugs tests. Am I right about that, or am I wrong about that? So what's he doing ringside at fights? What do you guys think about that? And what are Matchroom thinking? Letting him, you know, be ringside and letting him get his mug on camera. Conor Benn needs to clear his name. Matchroom said, and I've got Eddie Hearn on camera saying this, they said that they wouldn't promote him anymore until he cleared his name. In fact, here's the video.
On the night. Secondly, I could have done this fight in many different places around the world. You can't do it. You know, you've seen the feedback, you've seen the response. He has to clear his name, or he has to have his case heard. So what we are not going to do, and what we won't accept anyway, is just to go and get another license and put this fight on in December. No. Let's have the process, go through the legal process of Conor Benn, and then we see what the result is.
So he hasn't cleared his name then, has he? So what's he doing ringside at fights? He's under investigation for failing multiple drugs tests. So what's he doing ringside, front and center at fights, getting involved with people who are fucking passing tests? You're not passing tests. You should be at home, keeping a low profile. Wait for UCAD to give their final results. Keep yourself out of the media. Keep yourself out of the spotlight. Because, you know, we all know that, you know, so far the PR battle that you fought has been absolutely terrible. Leave yourself at home and just wait for the results. Wait for UCAD to give you your suspension. Wait for UCAD to give you your ban, etc., etc. Simple as that. What are you doing ringside? He's ringside at all these fights. Why is he in Dublin? Trying to, you know, and it's, to me, shall I tell you what I think this is? And you let me know what you think. What we're seeing from Conor Benn at the moment, in my opinion, is pure frustration. Press 1 if you agree with me on that, and press 2 if you disagree with me. This is a guy who failed multiple tests and thought that he was going to get his multi-million-pound fight with Chris Eubank Jr. He never thought it would go this far. He's a guy who failed multiple tests and thought, don't worry. Somebody whispered in his ear, don't worry, Con, we'll take care of this. It'll be all right. Seriously. Somebody whispered in his ear, don't worry about this, Conor. We'll take care of this. It's all right. You know, the British Boxing Board of Control will sort us out. You know, the fight will continue, you know, blah, 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 blah. Somebody told him everything would be all right. But unfortunately for them, their little plan didn't work because some idiot, with loose lips, sinked the ship and told the Daily Mail. And once the Daily Mail released the story that he failed drugs test, there was no way that the BBOC could let this fight happen. So I think, that's happened. He's lost a big, big payday with Chris Eubank Jr. Then he thinks he's going to go to Dubai, right, and avoid sanctioning by BBOC UCAD. Thinks he's going to go to Dubai and collect a big check against Manny Pacquiao. Well, guess what? The BBOC corner him, and very few we've seen foreign commissions like the California Commission, and I think maybe a Las Vegas Commission say we're not willing to let Conor Benn fight in our country or under our jurisdiction until he clears it up with the British Boxing Board of Control. So he's almost been cornered. He's almost got nowhere to go now, right? And he's realised, look, you know, he's going to have to face up to it with the BBOC of UCAD, and it's frustration for me. It's frustration. Let me know what you think about that. For me, it's pure frustration that you're seeing from Conor Benn. He shouldn't even be at these fights. He shouldn't even be at these fights. But the fact that he's at these fights seems to me, he's like a caged animal. He wants to get out of there. He wants to fight. He wants to start earning big money. But he wants to do it without getting sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control and UCAD. And now he's realised that isn't going to happen. He's throwing his toys out of the pram, in my humble opinion. It is a joke. It isn't a joke. Right. Let's... I do think it's desperation. Right, let's call it a day. All right. There's some other stuff to talk about, but maybe another time. Tyson Fury. I think there's trouble in paradise between Tyson Fury and Queensberry. No inside information, just a hunch I have. I do think there's trouble in paradise between Tyson Fury and Queensberry. Don't be surprised if you see Tyson Fury on DAZN fighting Anthony Joshua. Just a hunch I've got. No inside information. But don't be surprised if you see Tyson Fury on a DAZN card near you fighting Anthony Joshua for Matchroom Promotions. Because I think there's a bit of trouble in paradise there. He's frustrated because they haven't been able to get him a fight. And I think they're frustrated because he keeps making it difficult for them to get him a fight. So we'll talk about that. And maybe some other things as well. Right. Maybe we'll be back. I'm hoping to be back live for Haney versus Lomachenko. Live. Maybe after the fight. Maybe after the fight. I think after the fight. After the fight. I'm not going to go live during the fight in case Lomachenko loses. But anyway, let's see what happens after the fight. Yeah. All right. So hopefully, is it 4 a.m, 5 a.m? Maybe we will see you then. And hopefully Tony and Chevin will join us. Take care of yourselves. Hit the like button and each other.